they need to do and where they need to be here as well at Magny-Cours. It's going to be a magnificent race, but before we dive into the action here, let's have a quick look at the standings here in the VWSC Historics, so we can see who is where, because it's getting mighty competitive, especially at the sharp end of the field here in the VWSC, the Historics here. So before we see that, let's have a quick view of the highlights here. So it is truly a world championship. Is the VWSC, 5 continents represented. If we include where the commentators are positioned as well, we could probably add a few more as to that list as well. We have drivers hailing from Asia, the Oceania, from the United States, and of course Africa as well as Europe too. Here are the standings though for the Purist category. It's Ross Smith and Ben Borman who lead by 8 points to the good of the 2 Peugeot 905s. Ahmed Abdullah, who is here this weekend in his Sauber Mercedes C11, a further 21 points adrift. However, there's still a few more races left in the championship. More than enough time to capitalise and try and claw back some points. And you can see Ben Borman, despite having 3 wins, has only scored 81 points so far this season, with Ross Smith, with that 1 win, somehow leading the championship. George Andelinis in 4th position in the Mazda 787B. He's a further 2 points back. And then 3 points behind him is his teammate Dan Kirby in the Mazda 787B. For the teams, though, the Nuki Munsters, the Peugeot 905s, they're leading with 161 points ahead of the Lucky Strike Mazda Racing Mazda 787Bs. And that's the Kowalski Motorsports Sauber Mercedes C11s, further adrift with just 70 points to their name, so it's going to be quite tough for them to catch up here in the Purist category. So what does it mean by Purist? Well, this is of course the purest form of sim racing, essentially. They're going all out. Everything plus the kitchen sink is being thrown at them while they're behind the wheel of their sim rigs. They are full on with all the driver assist turns off, manual gears, you name it, the triggers are off, and it makes for a pure experience of what it's like to race these cars. The second category we have is of course the Pro category, where we have 4 major teams that are competing in the Nissan, the Porsche, the Mazda and the Jaguar. And it's Walter de Bruyn in the Porsche 962C with 87 points and 2 wins to his name, with Jason Whitehead just behind him in the Nissan R90CK with just 11 points separating the 2 of them, and it's 2 wins to Walter and 1 to Jason. Brian Hall, though, is 3rd with a further 16 points back, but with no wins. But consistency is always key in racing, isn't it? And he sits in 3rd overall in his Jaguar XJR 14. Ludwig Askanes in his Sauber Mercedes C11, he's got 1 win to his name and sits on 48 points, excuse me, and he's level pegged with Tom Lane, who shares that all-important 4th position there, but he hasn't got the win, so Ludwig has the upper hand here. And of course Lane is behind the wheel of that Porsche 962C. Now in the standings, it's rookie monsters with the Porsche 962Cs that are leading the field there as we move over to the AM category here. Now I don't want to say these are the bottom tier drivers, and these are the ones that kind of getting to grips with it. They're teething their way into the sim racing leagues here. They're already better than myself, that's 100% guaranteed. That these guys and girls are very fast indeed. Actually, saying girls, female, I should really call her, isn't it? Because Abigail Mady, the first female to take the green flag and winning class on her debut here in the VWSC Sports Championship, which she did a number of weeks ago, and it's great to see her back as well here this weekend. I'm looking correctly at the board. No, we don't have that. Well, we've got 20 drivers, unfortunately. She is not one of them, but still, a huge hat to her. A win on her debut as well is absolutely phenomenal. But in the AM standings, Eric Monet leads with the Porsche 962C with 91 points. He's only 11 points up the road from John Mayer, who has a win to his name in the Mazda 787B. And Barry DiMarzio in his Mazda sits in 3rd overall, 56 points, a bit further away. But luckily in the teams category, the Lucky Strike Mazda Racing 787Bs are the ones to beat at the moment by just 8 points. That's how close it is in the AM standings. Stephen Miller is 4th with Philippe Henrique rounding out the top 5. And this is due to the 3 winners that we've had previously in the championship sit in 7th, 8th and 9th position respectively in the AM category here in the VWSC Historics. And well, those are the championship standings for the 3 categories. As we said, the purest category is the purest form of sim racing. It is the most hardcore as well. There's no auto clutch. It requires a clutch pedal, an H-pattern gearbox with the manual throttle blip. It's got manually revving match downshifts and so much more. That just boggles my mind how these guys and girls, they race like this. Is absolutely incredible. They can skip shift with skill, and that is survey skill a lot of these drivers do have indeed. And how they don't get it wrong, I am absolutely bewildered how they don't get anything wrong. Of course, and they have no R Factor 2 assist on at all to add to the extra degree of difficulty. The Pro category is the faster of the drivers there in the sort of the second category there, the auto-clutch sequential shifting, where the shift delay is active. They do have the option for downshift auto rev matching, as does AM category as well, and the settings are somewhat similar here. No real differences. There's no manual throttle blip. There's no R Factor 2 assist either for them. I thought they would only be for the Purist there, but it seems to be some of the Pro and the AM drivers also want to take it all out here and throw everything at it they possibly can. Here in the VWSC, the 1991, so we say the Historics Championship here, there are a total of 6 different cars actually, that are used. We've got the Sauber Mercedes, we've got the Porsche 962C, the Jaguar XJR14, the Nissan R90CK, the Peugeot 905, and the Mazda 787B. Now, when it comes to straight line speed, it is the Sauber that is the one that leads the field with its twin turbo V8, throwing anywhere between 470 and 587 horsepower. Revs up to 7,300 RPM. But when it comes to the corners, it just doesn't have that grip at all to throw it around the corner. But the car that does have the grip there is the Mazda 787B with its legendary naturally aspirated rotary engine, one of the strangest engines to ever be placed inside a car. And am I having issues here with a little yellow warning? What's going on here on the stream for me? Because all I've got is a frozen screen here, so I do apologise if I'm not keeping up to date with the action. We are still live as per the timing sheet in front of me. Mine has supposedly frozen with 6 minutes to go in the session here of warm-up. But let's have a look at what the cars here that we have on field, on track even, because we have the Porsche 962, which is also a crowd favourite here with a twin-turbo Flat 6, revving up to 8,600 RPM, and it's kind of evenly matched there in both straight line and cornering speeds here. Now, my stream is still frozen, so as I say, I do apologise if something's happened, and it looks like it is frozen indefinitely here for the time being.
Yeah, I just confirmed, Chris. It must be a connection issue for you, the running, so it should come back on in a second.
Attention grid, will all non-essential personnel leave the grid now. Attention grid, will all non-essential personnel leave the grid now.
So for all our viewers back around the world, while Chris sorts out his technical difficulties, I can point out that we're getting ready for race start as the drivers come to grid, and we're now watching Daniel Kirby lead everyone off the grid. 20 cars racing this afternoon, and we're just going through the warm-up, the pace lap. That'll bring us to the start for the official start of the race. And it's a beautiful day at Magny-Cours this afternoon, which has really helped out with a big turnout for the number of cars. And as Chris has already pointed out, we've got a number of championship contenders who are here today, and so should be a lot of elbows out racing as they go through this very difficult technical track at Magny-Cours, and the number of hairpins that really throw these cars around the track as the drivers struggle to maintain position and get advantage on their competitors and the fellow challengers during the day. Making their way through the course on the final setup for the green flag as they cross the start-finish line, and 230 kilometers of racing should produce a bit more than an hour of some really super racing, as was seen last Tuesday at the MNRL, who ran the same race for the CMS population there on the Tuesday evenings, and just some terrific racing that was seen throughout the entire time.
So yeah, I do apologise, I'm having a few technical issues here on my end, but now I've finally got some clear pictures here of the formation lap here before the start of our 55 laps of the VWSC historic here. Dan Kirby will lead the field round, and he's got a long queue behind him, building up here with a number of race car drivers behind him that are ready to go. And as soon as I say that, my stream decides to go as well, so that is slightly unfortunate for me. So what I can do here is I can try my best here as the stream tries to sort itself out. I'll just do the old-fashioned manual system here. I've got the live timing in front of me. I can see that we're coming across the line.
Dan has crossed the line, and he's started for you, Chris.
And away they go. It's Dan Kirby who leads the field. Tom Lane just tucked up behind him. The entire field has got through, and it all looks as if Dan Kirby is escaping up the road, and he's trying to put a gap between himself already. He's through the first of the right-handers. Gets a good gap between himself so far and the rest of the field. This is already starting a good start here for Dan Kirby. Tom Lane is under pressure from Ahmed Abdullah as we race our way through. We've got a battle there for third position at the moment. Ahmed Abdullah and Walter de Bruyn, the championship leader here, who's trying to make his way through the field. Of course, he wants to capitalise immediately. He wants to capitalise as fast as he can here to ensure that he can extend his lead in the championship here around Magny-Cours. 4.4 kilometres in length. It feels like it's an eternity to get around, but really on paper it isn't that tricky to get around here. Plenty of long straights and plenty of tight and twisty corners here for drivers to get it all wrong. We've already got a little bit of a cluster building through the end of sector 1 and the entrance of sector 2 as well. And as we said, Dan Kirby is extending his lead here by 2.3 seconds to the good of Tom Lane. He's actually really decided he's actually distanced himself quite a fair bit here at Magny-Cours, because Tom Lane is under pressure from Ahmed Abdullah. Jason White sits in 4th position, and Philippe Henrique rounds out the top 5, so he's already found a way through here at the opening stages here around the French track here. So we're about to complete the first lap, to work our way through the final sector turn of the track here. So into the final corners, we're going across the line. Dan Kirby across the line, of course, purple for Dan Kirby. He goes fast as all, no doubt about that, because of course is the man to be. He's got clean air in front of him, clean air behind him. Not too much to worry about. Tom Lane, of course, still defending from the returning Ahmed Abdullah here, and that's impeding his progression here in the race, and that's unfortunately causing him to fall back as well. Now, the lap today, there's a 1:31.166. Incredibly enough, he was 2.5 seconds faster compared to the man that is in second position, and that, of course, is, well, what's happened to the race leader on my screen? No, it's just catching up, that's right. Now it seems to be the other screen is deciding that it doesn't want to play nice here. So back to the train of thought there, 1:33.632 was the lap time of second position. But for Dan Kirby, it has been a great start. So I do apologise if I can't see exactly what's on screen at the moment. I'm having to use the old-fashioned way here, just a live timing and of course a track mapping of where each and every driver is, because of course now our drivers working their way through sector 3 here for the second time, and another quick sector as well for Dan Kirby in the leading Mazda 787B for CMS Pro. But interesting enough, Jason Whitehead was quickest through sector 1 in the Storm Rider Racing Nissan with a 29.405 here around Magny-Cours. The race leader across on the complete lap number 2 with a 1:29.642, already dipping into the 1:29s, and is still almost 3 seconds faster compared to anybody else on track. Dan Kirby here really extending his gap here, which is magnificent for Dan Kirby, because of course this will help him in his championship bid. However, for the rest of the field, including Tom Lane, Ahmed Abdullah, and the rest that are all behind him, they are struggling here at the moment, because it looks like Tom Lane is essentially, well, I don't want to use the word that he is a rolling roadblock, but what has happened here is, unfortunately, drivers are getting stuck behind him. Now, I've got live pictures again. I'm not sure for how long I have these live pictures for exactly. I do apologise, my internet is very spotty here at the moment, but here is Tom Lane. You can see that gap that Dan Kirby has already built in front of him, and you can just see Dan Kirby is off there in the distance, and he's racing away all by his lonesome, capitalising as soon as he can. He's stretching out that lead, and what he doesn't want to do here, of course, now is to push too hard. Because, of course, in the VWSC here, we do have mandatory pit stops that all the drivers will do. We've seen different strategies playing out over the last couple of weekends that we've had here, where some drivers have decided to go for 1 pit stop, some have stretched it to 2, some have even stretched it as far as 3 pit stops, as my stream has decided that it is no longer part of the session either now, and it's followed Jason Whitehead through the corner, who's actually tucked up behind Ahmed Abdullah, because the leader in Pro is Tom Lane, who is in front of the queue here. Now, interesting enough, we do have Ben Borman into the pit lane. I'm not sure why Ben Borman has come in this early. It doesn't look like he's serving a drive-through penalty unless he's doing a stop and go here. He has completely stopped, so he is stationary in his pit box. It does not say that he's DNF'd at all, so he's still in the running here. But for Dan Kirby, he's escaping up the road, and he's escaping pretty fast as well. He's extended that gap up to 5.2 seconds to the good, as he's now into sector 2 here for the 4th time.
So Chris, I'll just add a comment here that Ben has been having some difficulties the last couple of weeks in terms of his connected, and so much like technical difficulties with a real life race in terms of the car itself, he's having problems technical in his connection, and that may be what's influencing him here.
Ben, I can relate to you 100%. I'm probably having similar connectivity issues to you. It's a good thing that audio still works here. As we can carry on there, thank you so much there for the input, Matthew, and the updates as well. As Dan Kirby continues to extend his lead by almost 6 seconds. They've got a great battle here, and Philippe Henrique is at the back of this quartet of cars here, because it's Tom Lane, Ahmed Abdullah, Jason Whitehead, and Philippe Henrique, who are all battling here for second position overall. Now, of course, they're all not in the same category. Dan Kirby, who is the leader, he is the Purist category. Ahmed Abdullah, who sits in 3rd, is 2nd overall in that category. And then there's no other Purists in close proximity, because Ross Smith is all the way down in 7th position at the moment in noon racing. But in the mix here as well, the 2 pro drivers with Tom Lane, Jason Whitehead, and of course we have the AM leader, Philippe Henrique, who would like to carve his way through and score maximum points, because of course for him, his closest rival, John Mayer, is all the way down in 14th position. So this is looking like a fantastic race there for Henrique, who's looking to capitalise here with maximum point advantage and a possible podium here as well outright here at Magny-Cours. This is lap number 5, if I'm not mistaken here. As I said, I do apologise because my timing screen is the only thing I have to rely on. And indeed, we are now on lap number 6, so I do apologise. It says 5 on the screen that I'm looking at here. But Dan Kirby is still your race leader for CMS Pro. Manta Squid's Tom Lane still holding up the field here for the time being. He's able to keep the drivers at bay as well. Ahmed Abdullah is desperately trying to find a way through, but just can't do it at the moment. He just can't find that opportunity to find a way through and past Tom Lane here, who is controlling that battle there for second position. And they're starting to get fifth position a bit further down, because that was Philippe Henrique not too long ago, and unfortunately he has dropped back now into the clutches of sixth position overall. That's Ludwig Askenis down there in the Sauber Mercedes. He's a further 8.2 seconds adrift from the race leader, and a 1 second back from that battle there. And Ben has come back into the pit lane, Ben Bourbon. It seems him and I are having the struggles of technical difficulties here. Mine might be slightly easier to get over than his is, because of course I just have to talk. He has to set up his entire rig, and of course the last thing you want to do here is race with lag. I know exactly what that's like, to have any sort of input lag, or lag in general actually, in a race. Race leader up into sector 2 now again, and it continues to extend his lead yet. Now still circling around that 6 to 7 second mark yet, and it's going up actually, looking at the timing screen here. It's actually going up all the way up to almost 13 seconds, of course, with the long straights here, and the Mazda 787Bs being so strong in the corners, is able to capitalise pretty much immediately, is Dan Kirby. Tom Lane, as I said, sits in second position. Further down, Ahmed Abdullah in third. Jason White in fourth, with Philippe Henrique in fifth. Ludwig Askenis sixth, with Ross Smith in seventh. Walter de Bruyn down in eighth position, hasn't been able to make up as much track as he'd like to. And seems to be struggling ever so slightly down in the bottom half of the top 5, as Ben Borman has got going again after visiting the pit lane here for the second time. Timo Subic runs in ninth for George Angelidis in the Lucky Strike Mazda 787B, rounding out the top 10 just ahead of Brian Hall here around Magny-Cours. Dan Kirby continues to lead in the Purist category. In Pro, it is Tom Lane, who sits in second at 14 seconds adrift from our race leader, and Philippe Henrique leads the AM category here at Magny-Cours. So 54 laps, 55 actually, if we include the formation lap. So it's 54 laps of racing. So we can expect at least 1 to 2 pit stops here. Some may even do 3. We did see drivers stretch it out anywhere between 2 and 1 pit stops. There was some very bold drives indeed for some of the drivers that stretched it all the way to only 1 pit stop. They were very careful, very light-footed on the brakes as well. I'm just speaking to a few drivers who are not with us today during the last time I was here in the box in the VWSC. They said that they're really being very cautious towards the end of the session, because of course, yes, we are racing online, and while it might be easier than, say, racing a real-life car when it doesn't factor in damage, costs, or anything like this, but we do try and hold it as real as possible here to have that sense of realism. As Ben Borman is back into the pit lane here, we do have tyre wear, fuel, plus many other factors that add to the realism, and drivers do have to think about the strategy coming into these races. Sure, they can go all the way 54 laps there with no refueling and no tyre changes whatsoever, but to add a little bit of flavour to the races here, of course, run it as real as possible. So the leader is across the line already, and a further 15 seconds back is Tom Lane, who is in second position at the moment. Make that Ahmed Abdullah actually, because he's squeezed through. He's finally done it and found a way through past Tom Lane, and is now able to break away from Tom Lane as well, as Ahmed Abdullah now escapes up the road, but it's still 10 seconds adrift behind the Purist leader of Dan Kirby. So Tom Lane down to third. Jason White was unable to follow him through, and here is that battle here. Well, looks like we've got a great battle brewing, because now no longer do we have a quartet of cars, we have multiple cars in the mix as well, and actually there might be some back markers in there as well, because where is Ben Borman? He would be somewhere in this mix, moving over to the other side of the road. Of course, you want to move out of the way of the faster traffic. As we're looking at Jason White here, who's second overall in the Pro category, and just in front of him by 6th of a second is his rival Tom Lane, who sits in front of him, and the gap is closing up here. Of course, with Ahmed Abdullah being able to escape the clutches of Tom Lane, it is a much easier job now for Jason White. He doesn't have 2 cars to get through, he's only got 1 car to get through till he can take lead in the Pro category here at Magny-Cours. Ben Borman is shown up on our screen as a DNF, so unfortunately Ben Borman, the technical difficulty is too much for him, and as soon as I say that, my technical difficulty start again here where I am. It's fine. Of course, we do have the screen to rely on here. It's always good to have backup. It's always good to have manual systems as well in this digital era. They still do help, no matter how you say that they might be as useful as they are. It's great to have pieces of different medias and all sorts of things here, so it makes it that much easier to stay online and continue discussing the action here at Magny-Cours here for the VWSC historic here. Throwback to 1991, the glory days of Group C racing. Some of the most iconic sports cars to take to the track, including the legendary Mazda 787B, the Sauber Mercedes C11, the Peugeot 906, the Porsche 962C, and the Nissan R90, and the Jaguar XJR as well. All beautiful machinery. The sounds they make are absolutely phenomenal, perfectly recreated here in R Factor 2. Dan Kirby continues to lead here by 14 seconds to the good. He's now successfully got past another one of the back market cars there. That's the 19th place car overall of Brad Nielsen, who has gone now is between the race leader and Ahmed Abdullah, who sits in second position. Now, looking at the sector times, it looks to me that Ahmed Abdullah is slightly quicker through the second sector compared to Dan Kirby, a 32.823 compared to a 32.132. And that's Abdullah to Kirby. And as Kirby's gone through sector 3 and across the line, but it hasn't updated here in front of me what his time was through that sector. It has for Ahmed Abdullah, who did a 28.512, and on that lap, was he quicker through that lap compared to the race leader? No, because the last lap unfortunately not popped up on my screen here. What it seems to be now with Ahmed Abdullah escaping the clutches of Tom Lane, he is able to escape up the road and go quicker as well, because he's done a 1:33.21, and actually he was 3/100ths of a second faster than the race leader. Slow and steady wins the race, as the term goes, but when you catch the back marker traffic, it might be ever so slightly harder to get through that fast. So if we look at the points here that are offered for a race victory, so 20 points for a win, second place gets 15, so for Dan Kirby, if he can secure those 20 points, that will further extend his lead here in the championship for the Purist category, and that's exactly what he wants to do here. But Ahmed Abdullah, who sits in third position in the club in the series, he's missed a couple of races here and there, but Dan Kirby has also missed a race or two. However, Dan Kirby has the upper hand here with more points to his name. But Ahmed Abdullah, he'd like to back those 20 points. He'd like to have Dan Kirby finish with less points, because of course for 12 points you finish in third position. Fourth you get 10, and fifth 8, and you go all the way down to 10th position where you get a single point. And then for each car that finishes 50% of the race distance beyond 10th position, they get 0.5 points here. So everybody gets points as long as they finish 50% of the race distance here. And it looks like on this lap, Ahmed Abdullah has been slightly slowed down to the back marker, the 19th place car overall, but we saw that through sector 2 as well, because he caught him right in the right-hander at the very top of the map here, and that really slowed it down, because he just caught Nielsen in the wrong area in his Jaguar XJR. As we said, Ben Borman unfortunately out of this race, as Dan Kirby continues to extend his lead here. Now, the interesting thing to note here as well is in the VWSC Championship, there is a one-drop rounds, or points that you've scored the least amount of points for all drivers. So that can actually close up the gap between the championship rivals when we come to the end of the season, because it's up to them what race they want to drop. If you're consistently winning, while it's good that you're banking enough points, you're going to have to drop 20 points somewhere, because, well, that's the rules of the championship here, to sort of even out the playing field, especially towards the end of the championship. And what this does is it tightens the field up and doesn't allow one driver or one team just to escape and just capitalise and just constantly win and secure the victory 4 races before the end of the championship. This makes it more wide open. This brings the action all the way to the end of the championship, which makes things extremely exciting here in the VWSC Championship here. This is the historics as well that we're racing with, as we said before, the glory days of Group C. Another slowish sector there for Ahmed Abdullah, 29.198, is 1.3 seconds slower than he has been through that sector. That slowed him down again. Now, there isn't any back markers for him to deal with at the moment. The next one is quite far up the road, running his way now through into sector 3, actually far ahead from the race leader as well, of Alex Gomrov. Here, as we look at the replay, now I can't quite catch who this is because, of course, my stream is doing what it feels like here. So unfortunately, I can't tell you what was happening on screen because it's decided now to freeze in the replay itself here. So shout out to that. In the Purist category, so Ross Smith is shown here as the series leader, although that is not correct, as if I'm not mistaken, from previous it was Dan Kirby, because Dan Kirby's name is not shown here at all in the Purist category. Now, am I looking at this data correctly here? Yes, I am. In the Pro category, Walter de Bruyn in the Porsche 962C with 87 points to his name. He has not had the race that he'd like to. He's actually dropped back as well because he was inside the top 10 not too long ago. He's down to 13th. Philip Henrique has also had an issue because he's dropped down into the top 50 in 14th position overall behind Walter de Bruyn here. Now, remember, Philippe Henrique was as high as 5th position not too long ago, as Ahmed Abdullah is going purple through sector 2. He's just on a 31.815, so he's on a flyer of a lap here. And he's come through and across the line, but what has he done in terms of lap time here? Has he closed the gap? Because it's still showing it's less than 20 seconds. It's around 18.6 seconds between Dan Kirby and Ahmed Abdullah here around Magny-Cours. It hasn't updated us with his exact time there when he came across. It said it was 1:30.819. So he was 0.4 of a second slower than race leader Dan Kirby. As into the pit lane, I think has come Walter de Bruyn. Is that Philippe Henrique that's come in? It's Henrique that has come into the pit lane. No, it is. It's actually Walter de Bruyn, the championship leader in the Pro category, has come into the pit lane in the Team Rookie Monster. So he's decided to come in quite early because we're only on lap number 12 here around Magny-Cours, and that drops him down. Now, this looks like a relatively quick pit stop here.
In fact, was a drive-through, Chris.
Thank you for clearing that up. I don't, unfortunately, because the stream is not informing me of these updates. So Walter de Bruyn has picked up a penalty there and has to do a drive-through penalty. That explains why the pit stop was so rapid there here at Magny-Cours. It doesn't drop into the tail of the field, however, it does drop into the tail end of the field in his category because he has the rest of the field in front of him, and he'll be only scoring, well, if he finishes 50% of the race, it will be down to 0, he'll only score 0.5 points. Now, that is not good news for his championship hunt because Jason Whitehead is outscoring him at the moment. Jason Whitehead is up in 5th position for the time being. As we look, Brian Hall here in the 44, he's currently 6th overall in the Pro category, just ahead of Walter de Bruyn. And as we say that, so where is Jason Whitehead? We said 5th position. If he were to finish the race now, he'd walk away with, now he would be in 3rd overall in class. That means he would walk away with 12 points. Walter de Bruyn would only walk away with 0.5. Now, how far back in the championship is Jason Whitehead? He's 11 points back, so he would actually retake the lead of the championship here at the end of this race if the positions were to finish as they were right now. Now, of course, we do still have a lot of time left on the clock here and a lot of laps left to run around Magny-Cours. So Walter de Bruyn does have a chance, but he's got to switch up his strategy because of this drive-through penalty that he's picked up. So he will have to switch up his strategy, keep his head down, keep it cool, fast as possible wherever he can, and work his way up the order. Because down in 18th position, not scoring as many points. He's already found a way through somebody because up in the 17th position, finding a way past Alex Gomrov here around Magny-Cours. Now, the Virtual World Sports Car Championship, as we said before, is a truly world championship. 5 continents represented here. So we've got Asia, the Oceania, Africa, Europe, and of course the Americas as well. There are plenty of countries represented as well, from Turkey to Australia, New Zealand, Morocco, South Africa, the United States, the United Kingdom, and, well, pretty much, as I said, a global championship is the VWSC here. And I said if you count the commentators as well, they're all the way as far as the United Arab Emirates too. And there are more African races competing in the VWSC than all of the FIA, the WEC, ELMS, and Asia Le Mans Series combined, which is a phenomenal achievement here. Of course, another interesting tidbit here is the age gap between the drivers, as Outl appears to have some sort of issue in Sector 3, my apologies. He's had an issue in towards the top of the map there in the final corners. Or is that just the screen buffering because he's had quite a slow sector? Has he? No, he hasn't. Looks to be perfectly fine there, so it's just the map trying to catch up here. But going back to the ages here, we have a 62-year age gap between the youngest driver and the oldest driver here. So we say seasoned driver instead of oldest. I'm using the word oldest. It's seasoned is the preferred terminology. William Miller is only 15 years old at the tender age of 77. And Tom Lasella races here at the VWSC. Tom, I don't think he's here today. Listen, no, he's not. Neither is William Miller racing with us. But in the drivers that we have racing here, that is the age of 62 years. A lot of years to consider as Timon Subic is in the pit lane here for the Champion Motorsports Salmon Mercedes C11. Coming to do his first pit stop by the looks of it. Unless it is a drive-through penalty. No, he's straight through for a lot longer than Walter was, so this presumably is a legitimate pit stop here as he's tumbling down the order as well. But of course, he is the first leg of the pit stops here. 15 laps.
Yes, he's come in very early, Chris.
It does seem quite early because it's not even half race distance. This is not even third race distance actually, if we calculate it correctly. 54 divided by 3. More or less, he's come out in the earlier stages of that first third of the race here. So an interesting strategy. So he'll no doubt have to do a second pit stop at some point towards the tail end of the second third of the race here. And he's going to have to be very careful towards the end of the race here because, of course, he's going to have to be very light on the accelerator and very light on the brakes as well to ensure that he's not consuming more fuel than he'd anticipate here at Magny-Cours. As we said at the opening part of the stream here, Abigail made the first female to take the green flag and win in class here at any VWSC sanctioned event. She actually did it on her debut as well a couple of months ago, as Outl has come into the pit lane here to do his first pit stop, and tucked in behind him as well in 12th overall has come Philippe Henrique, the man who was dicing it up for second overall in the race. And here racing this weekend, as you said, we have 3 different categories. We've got Purist, Pro and Am, all of them with different variations of settings. It says, according to the brief, that the Ams are the slower the drivers. I don't 100% agree with that. I say they're the less seasoned ones, are the ones that are budding, they're growing, they're learning, and they're improving their craft here of sim racing. As out of the pit lane now goes Timon Subic. Gilles Melonde has got out as well after a very quick pit stop actually, because he was in after Philippe Henrique, unless Henrique has an issue here, or he's trying to fill up as much fuel as possible here to try and stretch it out to just one pit stop. But if he's doing that, it seems to be a bit early to come in and just do one. Eric Monet is also into the pit lane as well, now being shown as 16th, and actually both of them being in the pit lane for extended time here. It's actually we say that Eric Monet is on the way out, but Philippe Henrique, it seems to be a longer pit stop duration compared to the others that have come in, because he is now leaving his pit box and is now back out on track. So that was quite a lengthy pit stop there for Philippe Henrique, and he's dropped all the way down to 18th.
There's been a number of incidents in the track that you've not been able to see with the freezes, and I think what you're seeing is pit stops that are taking that into account. And certainly Philippe and Eric were involved in a couple of incidents earlier on.
Thank you for the update there, Matthew. As he said, unfortunately, I'm having some technical difficulties here with the live pictures of the stream, so I'm only using the track map and the live timing that we have here at Magny-Cours here in VWSC. So into the pit lane now has come another driver, that is Stephen Miller in the Speed Details Jaguar XJR, who's coming to the pit lane for his first pit stop. Coming here in the first third of the race. As I said, only one retirement so far for Ben Borman, who unfortunately has had some technical issues, such as like myself as well here. But his seem to be more drastic than say mine are, because unfortunately he is no longer part of this race here. So unfortunately, one driver out, but we still have 19 drivers on track at the moment. One is currently in the pit lane, but is still part of the race here. 15th position. George Angelinas and Magnus Dahlgren have come in there in 8th and 9th respectively. There's another driver in the pit lane as well. No, because John Mayer came in. John Mayer's in as well. It said that he came in, went out, and he's come back in as John Mayer. So we've got two of the Lucky Strike Mazda 787Bs currently in the pit lane. Stephen Miller still in there. No, he's going a little bit longer compared to the other drivers. We saw this with Philippe Henrique as well, who had further drama in the pit lane as well. But now Stephen Miller is back out on track. So it's interesting to note that we have 4.4 kilometres of racing here, but 17 corners in total. It's quite a lot of corners when you think about it, and interesting enough, all of the corners are named after other tracks around the world, most notably F1 tracks as well. We've got corners as Estoril, that's turn 3 in sector 1. We've got the Golf Straight, not named after the racetrack, but not sure if it's named after the VW Golf or just the sport itself, because it's spelled GOLF. Would have thought maybe they named it after the iconic liveries from all those years ago. Adelaide is the 5th corner, of course. That's the Australian. That was the Australian Grand Prix. We've got Imola, the Nürburgring, which is a corner. It's corner 7 as well, and not to be confused with the Green Hell, which is many corners, not 7. It would have been maybe 7 times the amount of corners that the Nürburgring has in comparison to. Oh, that's the Nordschleife, I think, actually, not the Nürburgring. Of course, the Nürburgring, the shorter F1 track in Germany. Unfortunately, no longer on the calendar, but at least here we are getting a glimpse of it, as it's one of the corners around Magny-Cours here in the VWSC Historics. So, green flag still waves here. We've had a couple of green flag pit stops.
And just a note for you, Dan Kirby is now in the pit, and it's Ahmed Abdallah who's leading the race, followed by Tom Lane and Ross Smith in 3rd.
So we've got Dan Kirby now down in 5th place. Thank you, Matthew, for the update. Of course, Matthew has access to the live pictures. Unfortunately, I'm still struggling here. Jason Whitehead is in the pit lane. Ludwig Askenis is in the pit lane as well. And Walter de Bruyn has somehow found his way back up into the top 10. He has quietly and methodically worked his way through. Well, of course, with the added benefit of green flags pit stops, he has worked his way up the order and up into 6th position. So he'll be capitalising on points being scored here. Now, however, he is still behind his rivals, because Tom Lane is in the pro category. He's currently leading this category in the Mantis Squid Porsche 962. Ross Smith is there in the mix as well, but he's in the Purist category. Brian Hall is in the pro category and is ahead of Walter de Bruyn, but by only 2 positions. And Dan Kirby, the race leader earlier on, has now come out of the pit lane, is in 5th overall, as Ahmed Abdullah now leads by 5.6 seconds to the good. Into the pit lane now comes Brian Hall in the Hall Brothers Racing Jaguar XJR to do his first pit stop. We've also got Brad Nielsen in the pit lane as well. He comes in from 19th overall. So 2 more drivers in the pit lane. So starting to get a bit busy here. And let's see when Ahmed Abdullah decides to come into the pit lane for the first time in his Sauber Mercedes C11, because he looks like he's going to try and extend this fuel window by as much as possible, gain as much ground on Dan Kirby as he possibly can to ensure he can score maximum points. Now, Ahmed Abdullah is coming through turn 9 now. Dan Kirby has just gone through turn 3 and is working his way through turn 4 at the moment. So that looks to be a sizable gap for now, because that is showing as just under 30 seconds between Abdullah and Kirby here at the moment. Interesting to note that he is one of the only entrance here in the top 10. That is an independent, and is a rather strong independent as well. I've not seen him since we raced at Le Mans, but it's great to see Ahmed Abdullah back here, and of course leading the race as well as he did in Le Mans a couple of weeks ago, and he's in the pit lane now for the first time. So he's left it till lap 22 actually he's left it to. So that would mean he'd have to come in possibly one more time at lap 44 to 45. So every driver would need to have to come in at least twice here around Magny-Cours. Be interested to see if actually any of the drivers can actually stretch it out to just one pit stop here around Magny-Cours. Not sure how that's possible. So Ahmed Abdullah down in the third position. Where is Dan Kirby? Dan Kirby's coming across the line now, and he's gone through and back into the lead of the race here at Magny-Cours. So unfortunately, the gap was not enough for Ahmed Abdullah, but I presume if he just stayed out a little longer, he may have had bigger issues, because he wouldn't have just lost the lead. He may have lost all fuel in his car as well, as he drops down to 5th position overall. Walter de Bruyn now up in the 4th position. It seems to be his strategy is playing off quite nicely as Walter de Bruyn here. Thought as much that it's quite an interesting one that he's that far back, and Ahmed Abdullah, he's staying in the pit lane here for quite some time. Jason White who crossed the line.
And just watching on the stream Tom and Ross as they're taking yet another lap. So they're still in the lead. Virtually, I think Daniel Kirby has got the lead once they come into pit, but they are extending a tremendous amount of time, those two front runners, Tom Lane and Ross Smith. And there goes Ross Smith into the pit, and Tom is going for another lap.
Very interesting strategies playing out here at Magny-Cours. And it seems to be that Tom Lane is stretching it out as much as he can here. As I said, Ross Smith is into the pit lane for the first time. This will relinquish the lead to Tom Lane, who sits 21 seconds to the good from Dan Kirby at the moment. That's not a big enough gap for him to stay out in front here at Magny-Cours. So unfortunately he will lose the lead of the race during his green flag pit stop, as we saw Ahmed Abdullah lose his lead as well. As live pictures come back, we're looking at Timon Sumik at the moment. He's already done his one pit stop, and he's coming down to 5th position, just ahead of Ben Borman, who we said at the beginning, unfortunately is out of the session. Now, the good news is for me at the moment is that little annoying yellow exclamation mark has now decided that it doesn't want to be part of my screen anymore. So it looks like whatever connection issues I had have been sorted out, which is great news, because that means I have live pictures again with the yellow flag waving in Sector 1 here at Magny-Cours. And this, of course, makes things slightly easier. And as soon as I say that, it decides, no, enough is enough. Tom Lane continues to lead here with a gap that's coming down, because it was over 22 seconds. It's now down to 20 seconds here around Magny-Cours. Into the pit lane has come, oh no, that's Ross Smith actually, who's exiting the pit lane. Apologies. It said that it looked like he was coming in, but he's actually leaving the pit lane, and he's all the way down in 12th position. He lost almost 10 positions there, going in the pit lane for the first time and coming out. So that was quite a lengthy pit stop as well, but of course he'll be topping off the fuel tank as much as he can to extend this second run here around Magny-Cours, to ensure that he can come in later than he did the first time round, and try and switch up his strategy here ever so slightly here. Try and match it with some others and try to throw off other drivers here, thinking, oh, he's got a heavier car. Let's see how long he can last out on track compared to other drivers here. So Tom Lane is still your race leader and has yet to come into the pit lane as well. We're on lap number 24 here around Magny-Cours. That is, of course, 23 laps of racing have been completed. We have the 22 laps of racing been completed. 1 lap of formation, which is included in the 55 laps. So we've got 54 laps of racing. We've only elapsed 22 so far here at Magny-Cours. Because of course we're now on lap 24 for Tom Lane. Now, is this a lap that we see the race leader come in? Now, where is he at the moment? He's just worked his way into Sector 3 here for the 25th time. I'm confusing myself here. We've completed... Yes, okay, fine, that makes sense. We've completed 24 laps plus the one for the formation lap, which means we're on lap 25 now. No, that makes sense, yes. Indeed it has here. So does Tom Lane come in now? We watch to see if his blip ticks over. No, he will stay out for an additional lap here. He is really extending this fuel window here to as thin as possible. He's going to come into the fuel stop here with essentially fumes in his tank. And this is going to be interesting to watch because he is the last of the runners here to come into the pit lane. Tom Mountjoy may be the other driver that has not come in as well, because he's quietly worked his way up into the top 5 as well now. Currently circulating in 5th position in the Hardtail Racing Porsche 962. And let's have a look if he's come into the pit lane at any point. So let's remove Shield from our screen here. And it looks to be Tom Mountjoy has also not come in yet as well, although he had a very slow opening lap. He has not come through, so the two Toms, we are waiting patiently to see when they come into the pit lane, as they are the last two drivers not to do their first green flag pit stop here around Magny-Cours. So keep an eye on the gap between our top two. Now it looks to be Tom Lane is going slower here at the moment despite having no traffic in front of him. As we look at the sector times here, a 30.542 for Tom Lane, that is, and a 29.791 for Dan Kirby. He was 0.3 of a second off of his best time, whereas Tom Lane is 1.1 seconds off his best time, and he's not come through again. He's really stretching out this fuel tank here as much as possible. We are on lap 26 here at Magny-Cours, and Tom Lane may have found the secret to a long run here. Now this is certainly going to play into his hands at the end of the race here. Tom Mountjoy and the Porsche 962C is doing something similar. Now could it be the Porsches that are more fuel conscious compared to the other cars that we have? Walter de Bruyn is coming earlier, but he's somehow now made it into the top 3, and soon enough he'll be in the top 2. But his gap is 30 seconds. Ahmed Abdullah, though, on a flyer here at the moment. He's gone purple through Sector 1 and Sector 2 down in 10th position with a 28.970 and a 31.303. As Ahmed Abdullah tries to work his way back through the top 10 as the Tom Mountjoy car has come in. I'm feeling he's the second to last driver to come into the pit lane here. So Tom Mountjoy, unfortunately, will tumble outside of the top 10 now, as I've had a look across the line, and is officially the fastest man out there with a lap time there of 1:28.745. And Magny-Cours is the first of drivers to dip in the 1:28, and he's done it in style as well. He's gone almost 0.8 of a second faster compared to Dan Kirby.
And Tom is now in, so we'll see how much of an advantage he's able to gain.
Now he came in with a gap of less than 20 seconds, and thank you Matthew there for the update that Tom Lane is in. Dan Kirby comes across the line now, so he'll retake the lead. So Tom Lane loses the overall lead, but how far will he drop down? Will Walter de Bruyn be able to come through? He's working his way now to the final stages of Sector 3. It's going to be close. He's not moving. Tom Mountjoy is, and Tom Mountjoy came a good couple of seconds ahead of him, so Tom Lane will unfortunately lose out on second as well as Walter de Bruyn goes through. Jason Whitehead also may retake third overall here. Remember, he's already come into the pit lane, done his pit stop as well, his first pit stop. Seems to be the Porsche is very good on fuel mileage here around Magny-Cours. So indeed, Tom Lane is dropping now. He might drop outside the top 10 as well as Ahmed Abdullah comes through. He will take 7th back as Gilles Lalonde goes up into 8th position. Now how far will Tom Lane drop down? He's now on his way out, and he may lose 10th overall. Magnus Dahlgren has come in for the second time here, and Tom Lane just gets out ahead of Ross Smith to stay inside the top 10. His Porsche 962C, but he's lost quite a significant amount of time. He's lost over 1 minute and 20 seconds off his lead, and he's going to have to go as fast as he dares here. But he has to be conscious and think about how much he's going to burn here in this second stint here. Of course, he left it sort of to the very last minutes there of the pit window, at least the estimated pit window there for Tom Lane, and he left it very, very close as well. I can imagine there was nothing in the tank. The car was as light as a feather when it came in. Barely probably came in under its own power as well. As we continue on here now, CMS Pro have retaken the lead with Dan Kirby behind the wheel in his Mazda 787B. 15 seconds, or to make that now almost 21 seconds. The time screen is just lapped over there. As Gilles Lalonde does a personal best on that lap. A 1:30.170. He's edging closer now to the 1:29s. Let's go slightly faster there if he wants to capitalise there, as Brad Nielsen is in the pit lane for the second time as well in his Jaguar XJR. Shown as 4 laps down now from the race leader, so just getting the grips here with the cars and of course the category and the series as well is Brad. As I said, in 19th position. So as we fast approach now the halfway point here, and actually we've more or less elapsed actually the halfway point here, because now we've completed 29 laps here of racing. We're on lap number 30 at 55 here around Magny-Cours. Dan Kirby continues to lead by 23.492 at the moment over Walter De Bruyn. Jason Whitehead runs in third, and George Angelidis into the top 5 here around Magny-Cours. CMS Pro ahead of Team Rookie Monsters, Storm Rider Racing, Lucky Strike Mazda 787B, and then the first of the independents, Ludwig Askenis, which is a little bit in 6th position. Brian Hall has just got in the 7th place with Ross Smith following him through. Now Ross Smith actually found a way past Tom Lane to move into 9th position. John Mayer is up in the 10th. Ahmed Abdullah has dropped out of the top 10 here. Now shown as 11th, and he's had an issue on the previous lap because he had a sector time there of 1 minute 7 seconds in sector 2, so he's had an issue somewhere. Now I do wonder if that's
he came in contact with another car and spun off at the top of the track, and he's back on again.
Thank you for the update there, Matthew. As I'm still having some issues here with my live stream. I've tried reconnecting, and if you haven't done this, restarting my computer, but that of course that will take fair few minutes to do that. We don't want to leave you unattended for too long. Dan Kirby though continues to lead and is extending that gap as well over Walter De Bruyn. As you said, interesting strategy though. If we look between Dan Kirby and Walter De Bruyn, Walter came in much earlier and he had the drive-through penalty and is now sitting in 2nd position, less than 20 seconds adrift from the race leader. Now Dan Kirby is working his way to the tail end of sector 2, with Walter De Bruyn now entering sector 2, so it's quite a significant gap between the two of them in terms of track position and of course timing as well, because as we said it's just over 20 seconds to the good, almost. She's coming down again between them. That is before we enter the corner. Now do we have a slow car in sector 1 by the looks of it? Brad Nielsen may be having an issue here. He's had a very slow lap previously, and he's come to a stop on the front straightaway by the looks of it as well. So the issues continue there for Brad. It looks like he's got going again. He's got the race leader tucked up behind him as well here. So the race leader's going to want to make a quick work of him, find a way through. So thank you very much. I have a race to win here.
And we're just following on the stream, Chris. You might want to look on the timing sheet that Tom Lane's not having things much go his way. He's been passed by Ross after repassing Ross, and he's now being pressured very hard by John Mayer. So he's having a much more difficult second stint.
Thank you, Matthew, there for the update there. Yeah, 1/6 of a second is the gap between Tom Lane and John Mayer. Down in 8th position. That is, 9th position, excuse me. That's the battle for the last position in the top 10 as well. And of course, with these two battling, this will allow Ahmed Abdullah to capitalise and chase the two down as well. As that gap was over 5 seconds, now it's coming down between those three. As Ahmed Abdullah wants to work his way through the top 10 and score maximum points here. We've got another battle as well between George Angelinas and Ludwig Askinis. The gap there is 14 of a second separate the two of them. That is the battle for 4th place. And the Mazda 787B, and of course the Sauber Mercedes C11. The gap is really coming down to less than 0.2 of a second between the two of them in certain parts of the track. Tom Lane still able to keep John Mayer at bay, but unfortunately he's losing ground to Ross Smith as we speak. We've got Tom Mountjoy and Philippe Henrique also battling for 14th at the moment. The gap was less than a second not too long ago. It's gone up, as was the battle between Stephen Miller and Magnus Dahlgren as well. That battle is on there for 16th position. But up front, the battle is Daniel Kirby to Walter De Bruyn, and it's still 28-ish seconds separating the two of them. It comes down through certain parts of the track, but then the advantage goes to Dan Kirby when it comes to the corners, because of course the Mazda is quicker through the corners, a lot more grip in that car compared to the Porsche. The 962C there is, well, it's not the fastest on the straight line or cornering. It's sort of the middle ground between the two faster cars in those two departments, with the Mercedes being the quickest on the straights and the Mazda being the quickest through the corners with all that grip that it has. But Volta does not have the Mercedes, but he does have the straight line speed, redlining all the way at 8,600 RPM. Twin turbo flat 6. But again, the Mazda has the most unique engine ever seen in a race car. A rotary engine, the triangular, I would say engine or cylinder, because technically not a cylinder, is it? The triangular piece of metal that goes to the circular piece of metal, and well, nothing short of a miracle what happens in there. But the only issue with the Mazdas is the reliability in real life with the rotary engines. However, they did secure a victory at Le Mans all those years ago. A very hard-fought victory. As Brad comes into the pit lane for, I think, now the 3rd time here at Magny-Cours. Across the line there came 2nd place. That, of course, is Walter De Bruyn, who improved on his lap time that time round. With Jason Whitehead being in 3rd as he comes across the line now. A further 15 seconds adrift. As it looks like we have a battle brewing between Gilles and Brian Hall. The battle for 6th position. Very quick in and out there as well for Brad. I think that might be a stop and go. That was far too quick for an actual pit stop of any tyre changes or fuel. Incredibly quick there for a pit stop. The fastest we've seen so far as well here at Magny-Cours. The battle of the 4th also rages on here between George Angelinas and Ludwig Askinis. Two battling there, as we said, for 4th position. The Mazda and the Mercedes there. Gap is as low as 0.3 of a second. They do battle. They continue on here as well. They're working their way through Sector 2 for what will be now the 34th time here in Magny-Cours. We've also got a battle brewing up ahead as well, and of course that's back markers that are in front of Philippe Henrique and Tom Mountjoy, separated by just 1/6 of a second. Magnus Dahlgren and Stephen Miller, they've actually changed position because Magnus Dahlgren has gone through in the Me Racing Jaguar XJR past the Stephen Miller driven Jaguar XJR. Now those two are actually now catching the back of Tom Mountjoy and Philippe Henrique, because now we've got a 4-way battle for 15th by the looks of it brewing. 14th like that, because that's where Philippe Henrique is. Magnus Dahlgren 15th. Tom Mountjoy has actually lost 2 positions now, hasn't he? Because Philippe and Magnus have gone through, and it's only Stephen Miller that's not found a way through yet, but he is in close proximity and right on the back bumper as well. As John Mayer still applying the pressure to the back bumper of Tom Lane. Here's Mantis-Win Porsche 962C. Instead of the late pit stoppers there, Gilles Mavant is into the pit lane for the second time here at Magny-Cours, having completed 34 laps here around the French track. Ross Smith will go through, take 7th position. Tom Lane and John Mayer now the battle for 8th position on track instead of 9th. As we're actually on board now, briefly there with John Mayer. Like how the string intermittently appears for me here. So I get brief shots of it here as we look on the rear spoiler of John Mayer, who leads the AM category at the moment ahead of Eric Monet. So not really a battle for class there, just bragging rights between himself and Tom Lane. So it's Lane in the Pro category. Mayer is in the AM category, and as I said, leading that category as well. As it closes up in the braking zone, but just not close enough to make a move on the inside of Tom Lane. As into the pit lane comes Walter de Brood here for the second time with Porsche 962C. He comes in with 20 laps to go. And he should be good to go to the end of the race here. Now, he was around 20-ish seconds behind our race leader. And a very... Oh no, Jason White is into the pit lane, excuse me. That's why it's changed from second to third for Walter de Brood. So both third and second on track have come in and has now changed positions to second and third. Jason Whitehead being in second. Now George Antoninis will go into second position and Ludwig Askinis will go into third, with those two being in the pit lane. Brian Hall will move up the order as well, up into fourth position. During these green flag pit stops, this will be the second round of pit stops as well. And now this time round, these two should be able to go all the way to the end of the race here. Now, I just want to see when Tom Lane came to the pit lane, because it came in on, what was it, lap 28 he came in. Half of that would be, half the race distance would have been 27 to 28 laps completed. We include the formation lap, he still would have lost some fuel on that formation lap. However, Tom Lane may be able to do this entire race on one pit stop. However, with this battle that he's having with John Mayer, he may be having to use more fuel than he'd be liking to do, and this may cause some issues towards the end of the race. And of course, when he's battling with Ross Smith earlier on as well, that may have caused him to use up more of his car than he'd actually like to have done. But let's see what he can do here. Can Tom Lane finish this race here on a single stop? Same with Tom Mountjoy as well, because remember, Tom Mountjoy came in the lap before Tom Lane did. Two Toms there coming in simultaneously at the end of this sort of first cycle of pit stops. George Antoninis comes through and across the line. He's got a great battle here with Ludwig Askinis in close proximity. Showing us 2 seconds. It was a lot closer before though, because it looks like Ludwig Askinis has got back markers all over him. He's actually got a very quick car in the mix as well there, because that is Magnus Dahlgren, who's just gone through and passed him. Brian Hall is in the pit lane for the second time. Brad has come in once again. Philippe Henrique is in the pit lane from 18th. So Brian Hall is already in. That moves Ross Smith, Tom Lane, John Mayer and Ahmed Abdullah all up in position. Walter de Brood is out in 9th position and a lap behind the race leader. So that's a good chunk of time that Dan Kirby has over the rest of the field. His race is just getting easier by the looks of it, which of course is great news for the championship leader in the Purist category, as he'll be adding more points to his championship hunt here. The pit lane gets slightly busier than usual. Timon Suick is in. I have a feeling Brad Nielsen is out. Looking at the screen as his day has officially come to the end. Now I have a feeling he's with 50% of the race, so he will get at least those 0.5 points. position if that is the case, because Ben Borman is out. His name is greyed out on my screen. Brad Nielsen's name is greyed out now as well. Timon Subic is in the pit lane. He's yellow, and that means he's in the pit lane. He's stationary. So he is still going. He's still good to go towards the end of the race here. Down now into 17th position. So he loses out on some tracks. So there's Ludwig Askenis, the leader in pro category, ahead of Tom Lane. And the good news is he's got Ross Smith in between himself and Lane. So a bit of breathing room here for Askenis. Breathe a little easier. Timon Subic is out on his way. John Mayer into the pit lane, so now Tom Lane also can breathe a little easier as well. Doesn't have to fight too hard, although he does have a very hard charging up, but Abdullah behind him now at the moment, who's in 6th position, looking to carve his way back up into the top 5. So keeping an eye now on Abdullah here, as he continues to go fast here in his second stint. He came in a little bit earlier compared to Tom Lane, so he'll have to come in at least one more time here before the end of the race. George Angelidis is in for the second and final time here in his Mazda 787B. He's a minute behind the race leader. Ludwig Askenis is in the pit lane as well, 50 seconds adrift from the race leader, trying to catch up. Ross Smith is through now into 3rd position. Tom Lane will go into the 4th position, and he's got the race leader tucked up behind him as well. Scrap that, because Dan Kirby has come in now for the 2nd time here. Now this is what Tom Lane needs. He needs to get as much time on the race leader as he humanly possibly can, but that's going to be quite tough to do actually, because he was almost a lap down before Dan Kirby came into the pit lane. Walter De Bruyn is just another personal best there on that lap in his Porsche 962C. We're dipping into the 129s. Jason White has also dipped into the 129s as well. Didn't quite catch when that happened, but he's also into the quicker time bracket as well. So the race leader is in, but how long? Now, where is Tom Lane? He's in 4th, so he's working his way through sector 2. Dan Kirby is still in the pit lane. Ludwig is currently working his way into sector 3 here for the 39th time. Is working his way now through the penultimate corner. Dan Kirby is on his way out, so he looks like he will maintain the lead, and this is going to be very difficult for Tom Lane if he wants to stay ahead, or if he wants to continue to stay ahead. Ludwig Askenis is in the pit lane. Tom Lane, of course, is the driver that is attempting to do this race here on a single stop. As Ross Smith is through, he'll take 2nd position away, but he will no doubt relinquish that to Tom Lane soon enough. The Manta Squid Porsche 962 driver will be one of the last, if not the only driver not to come into the pit lane for a 2nd time. Tom Mountjoy, I presume, may have to come in as he came in 1 lap beforehand. However, for Tom Lane, I have a feeling he'll continue on with just 1 pit stop completed here. So Ross Smith now goes into 2nd, Tom Lane is 3rd. Here's Ahmed Abdullah at the moment. He is chasing down Tom Lane at the moment. Ahmed Abdullah will no doubt come into the pit lane, takes a much tighter line through the corner there compared to Tom Lane as well. Uses all the curve that he can. Two battling for 3rd position, separated by 0.5 of a second at the moment are these two. And to square, of course, Ahmed Abdullah, an independent entry here in the VWSC. Gilles Londelay rounds up the top 10. Another one of the independents, as well as Ludwig Askenis. Dan Kirby, as we said, out of the pit lane. Now 2 cars in, as we said, but those unfortunately are out of the race here at Magny-Cours. We're on lap number 40. Dan Kirby has 16 laps to complete. I have a feeling he is good to go towards the end. Tom Lane, though, will be pushing it all the way to the end as far as possible. Great to get some insight from him as well at the end of the race here, just to get his thoughts and the strategy that he played out here. And as we said, it's looking like he's going to do just the 1 stop as he came in as late as he possibly did. Came in at the end of lap 27 at the start of lap 28. And that was as late as anybody else has dared to go. Tom Mountjoy was one of the other drivers that came in extremely late here at Magny-Cours. And actually Tom Mountjoy came in on lap 26. So actually came in the lap before Tom Lane, as I said before. He will be another driver that might possibly stretch it all the way out to the end, as Ahmed Abdullah looks to have found a way past Tom Lane. Indeed he has, and is now stretching that gap out, but that Mercedes no doubt will come into the pit lane at least one more time here before the end of the race. Tom Lane might have just let him through, just said, look, I'm trying to do this on one stop, you might not be doing it. And of course these two not in the same class. Ahmed Abdullah is in the Purist category, with Tom Lane being in the Pro category, so no need to fight for position. It's of course bragging rights though for Tom Lane to stay ahead of a Purist and outscore him as well. As you can see, Tom Lane now trailing in the distance, still circulating there in the top 5, which is where he wants to be, as Ahmed Abdullah uses as much of the runoff area as he can, and it looks like he's dived to the pit lane as well, as Ahmed Abdullah. Yes, he has. So Abdullah comes in for the second and final time. He'll relinquish third position now to Tom Lane, as I said before, the man who will try and attempt this race on just a single pit stop, and now he has Walter de Bruyn behind him. He's going to not want to fight too hard with Walter de Bruyn, although these two will be battling though for the lead in the Pro category, so this is going to get quite interesting. Walter de Bruyn has the added advantage of possibly having more fuel and better tyres on his car, whereas Tom Lane, as we said, is stretching this fuel strategy to the max by doing a single pit stop. Is going to have to play this to an absolute T, and he's going to have to not put a single foot wrong and ensure that Walter de Bruyn does not come through. So if we have a quick look now at the championship standings in the Pro category, Tom Lane is down in 5th position. He is outscoring Walter de Bruyn, as Walter will be walking away with 20 points. Tom Lane is walking away with 20. Walter de Bruyn will be walking away with 15. That will close the gap up, but Walter de Bruyn still has the added advantage of him being almost 40 points ahead of Tom Lane here in the championship, so he doesn't have to fight too much. He's obviously fighting out for overall victories here at Magny-Cours and the VWSC Historics, but of course Tom Lane will want to score those additional 10 points now, won't he, because he will want to be the one that has the bragging rights at the end of the race. He's the one that wants to be on the top step of the podium in the Pro category, and of course is also fighting here for 3rd overall, because it'll be Dan Kirby, Ross Smith and Tom Lane, your top 3 as of right now, with the lead battle coming down to less than 10 seconds to the good between Kirby and Smith. And it's relatively quiet as the pit lane at the moment. Dan Kirby a slow sector that time round, usually slow as well, might just be the back markers because he's wedged in between 2 of them at the moment. He's wedged in between Ahmed Abdullah and Gilles Lalande. Now, of course, Ahmed Abdullah will not be wanting to go a lap down here, and there you can just see in front of the Mazda is that Sauber Mercedes. And of course, for the C11 driver, he's going to want to escape up the road and preferably get away from Dan Kirby as fast as possible. The last thing you want to do is be a lap down to the race leader. Abdullah, of course, running in 4th position at the moment. George Antonidis is 3rd overall in this category. He is currently in 7th overall. Ludwig Askenis sits in between George and Ahmed at the moment. So it's going to be quite a tough ask here for Ahmed Abdullah if he wants to claw back some points here in the championship, because he's going to have to find a way past not 1 but 2 cars, and he has to keep the race leader and the leader in the Purist category behind him here. Ross Smith is another driver in the Purist category. He's currently running 2nd overall, 12 seconds drift from Dan Kirby. He's working his way through Sector 2 here for the 43rd time here. So he should have 12 laps to go here around Magny-Cours. Dan Kirby continues to lead by 14 seconds to the good of Ross Smith. Dan Kirby, of course, leads in the Purist category. Ross Smith in second in the category. Tom Lane, though, leads the Pro category by 1.7 seconds. Walter de Bruyn is catching, and he's catching fast as well. As you said, Walter de Bruyn here has more tyre and more fuel to use up as well compared to Tom Lane. Tom Lane has to be more conservative here. Of course, he's going for that one-stop strategy compared to Walter de Bruyn's two-stop strategy. Leading the AM category is Mayer from Mountjoy. Now, John Mayer, and Tom Mountjoy are outside the top 10 for the time being, separated by about 8.9 seconds between the two of them. But Tom Mountjoy is trying to do that one-stop strategy similar to Tom Lane as well, although it's going to be a lot more difficult for him as well as he's further down the field. Now, battle for third overall is heating up here. Tom Lane, Walter de Bruyn, less than 3/10 of a second separate the two of them here around Magny-Cours. As they cross the line there to complete battle 43. Line astern there, not a car separating the two of them at all. Through sector 1 we go now. Walter de Bruyn looking for each and every way through, but Tom Lane making their Magny-Cours Porsche 962 as wide as possible. Walter de Bruyn, though, desperately trying to find a way through. He's got a good opportunity now coming into turn 5 here with Outl. Turn 5, excuse me. Looks deep on the inside, or thinks better of it, as Tom Lane shuts the door on him. So continue on, and looks like actually Walter de Bruyn's found a way through. Yes, he has. Through is gone. Walter de Bruyn in the team Rookie Monster Porsche 962C bumps Tom Lane down now to fourth overall, and that bumps him out of the lead at Pro as well. Now, what Tom Lane wants to do is he wants to stay with him and hope that Walter de Bruyn gets stuck with some back markers, but it looks like Walter de Bruyn is already extending his lead by 0.7 of a second, with Ross Smith going quickest through the third sector, and he's gone into the pit lane as well. So this battle that was for third is now going to be the battle for second soon enough. Tom Lane's going to want to stay with Walter de Bruyn, but the gap is already extending to almost a second here at the tail end of sector 3. It's about to start lap number 46 here around Magny-Cours. We'll leave now 9 laps of racing to go here around the French track. Across the line comes that battle now. That was the second. Tom Lane, unfortunately, dropping back. As I said before, he's more conservative than, say, Walter de Bruyn can be. Walter de Bruyn is doing the two-stop strategy, with Tom Lane going for the one-stop strategy. This is good for Walter de Bruyn because it was a nice, quick, easy job to pass Tom Lane, and now he's on a mission to see if he can track down the race leader Dan Kirby, who leads by just under 37 seconds at the moment. A whole sector actually separate second and the leader. The race leader, of course, in the Mazda 787B. Walter de Bruyn, the Porsche 962C. Tom Lane in third, though, in the Magny-Cours Porsche. He's going to want to stay there, but he has both Ross Smith and Jason Whitehead closing in on him. The gap between them less than 5 seconds at the moment. But Jason Whitehead is 0.3 of a second back from the Peugeot, the lead racing Ross Smith driven entry. Those two battling. Looks like they're trying to work together as well to try and catch the back of Tom Lane. So those two can make it a trio, a three-way scrap for third. As Lane continues to lose ground to Walter de Bruyn. Volta now coming on, back marker traffic. He's going to want them to move out of the way as soon as possible. Tom Lane's going to want them to stay in front of him as long as possible to ensure that he can get through again and back in a second position. Dan Kirby continues to lead here. A very slow first sector there for Ross Smith, but I think that's because of him coming out of the pit lane. That would explain it. There's Jason Whitehead all over the back of him at the moment. That's the battle for fourth position at the moment, and it looks like we've had a change for... No, there's not a change for second. I thought Tom Lane found a way through, but he didn't. That is just Walter de Bruyn playing with the back markers now, trying to desperately find a way through. Now, who's that in front of him at the moment? He's just behind 18th position overall. That's Alex Gomrov, who he's behind. Steve Miller slightly further up the road. And who else is in the mix there in the back markers? 13th place car overall. Tom Mountjoy, another one of the drivers that's only doing this on a one-stop strategy. As into the pit lane for the third time has come Magnus Dahlgren in the Emmy Racing Jaguar XJR. Coming for a third time, this will give 11th back to John Mayer. He's looking to carve his way back now up into the top 10. We've completed 46 laps of racing here. We're on lap number 47. Walter de Bruin has found a way through the back markers and he is released and on his way, further extending his gap between himself and Tom Lane to ensure he can score maximum points here at Magny-Cours. Who's just come out? I think it's not John Mayer that's come out. Who's come out in the pit lane? That would be Magnus Dahlgren. Yes, it would, because he's a driver that's now shown as 13th. Tom Mountjoy has gone through and taken 12th overall. Jason Whitehead still in close proximity to the back of Ross Smith. Not going to make this back easy here. Oh, when he got all the Jaguars in the back of it, it looks like it's going round. Who was that lost it, and where exactly did they lose it? That was through... through the entrance of the Sector 2 by the looks of it. Now, who was that spun round? It was Alex Bonloff who went round in 18th for Lavis Fenders Racing. Actually, 6th in class, 6th in the AM category. Oh, Philip Henrique has been shown as a DNF briefly on our screen here. Now, what's happened to Philippe Henrique? He was battling not too long ago in the top 5, but yes, indeed, he's shown as a DNF. His car being shown in the pit garage. So for Philippe Henrique, the early race leader in the AM category, it's all over. This is great news though for Eric Monet, because he will be climbing up the order. He is 4th overall in class. He will now move to 3rd overall in class. So here's a replay. I think. Now, will this be the instance of Gomov? No, it's not. This is Philippe Henrique. So everything seems to be going fine, and then my stream cuts out, so that must be the technical difficulty he faced. So he must have had his own technical difficulty somewhere as well. And it's been so catastrophic, it's paused my stream yet again here. And the VWSC Historics, that moves now Philippe Henrique down into 18th, so a very good run at the early stages of the race, but unfortunately Henrique is out here of the race, and that is definitely not the way that he'd like to do it. It was running up as high as in the top 5s. Unfortunately, out of this race here. 6 laps to go around Magny-Cours. We've just started lap number 50 here. It's Dan Kirby, who leads by 36.6 seconds to the good. Walter de Bruin. De Bruin has escaped the clutches of Tom Lane, plus a handful of back markers, and will continue on, with Tom Lane struggling to find a way through. Now, actually, he's actually caught in a battle between Tom Mountjoy and Magnus Dahlgren. Those two battling for position on track, and they've got, unfortunately, Tom Lane in the mix of them. Ahmed Abdullah is on a flying lap here as well. He's gone purple through sector 1 with a 28.9. Now, the good news is Ahmed Abdullah, he's not got a lap down yet from Dan Kirby. He's in 9th position, a little bit further up the road than the race leader. But now he's coming up onto the back markers, and the race leader is coming in hot as well. And he doesn't want to go a lap down here, is Ahmed Abdullah. He wants to try and score as many points as he can, although 9th position is not exactly where he'd like to be. So he goes through sector 3, no purple time this time round. Only purple through sector 1 for Ahmed Abdullah. As he edges closer now to 14th overall. Just trying to escape the clutches of Dan Kirby. What a race it's been so far though for Dan Kirby. Hasn't put a foot wrong at all. We've only had one lead change, excuse me, where we saw Tom Lane take the lead of the race. Dan Kirby across line goes green that time round as well, so that's an improvement. 1:28.977. He dips into the 1:28s now for the first time. Still 2 tenths of a second slower than Ahmed Abdullah's fastest lap of the race. But he's now officially started lap number 50 here. Sorry, lap number 49. As it's showing us now. Briefly looking at Ross Smith battling it out here on track. He's running in second position at the moment in class. Fourth overall. He's got Jason White tucked in behind him by a second. And he's 1.4 seconds back from Tom Lane. Remember, Tom Lane doing this race on a single stop here at Magny-Cours, making things very interesting. And he might soon enough lose out on third position overall to Ross Smith. Here, Walter de Bruyn has already got through and escaped up the road. He's on now to the back of the back marker at the 16th overall, just in front of him. But for Tom Lane, the pressure is on once again here for Ross Smith, and he's got to deal with Jason White as well. The three drivers there have made it a trio here for third position. Three-way scrap for essentially the third step of the overall podium. Here, all three drivers in different classes as well. Ross Smith in the Purist category. Jason Whitehead, though, is in the Pro category, as is Tom Lane. So Tom Lane needs to be very careful here. He can let Ross through, but he can't let Jason Whitehead through here, because of course Tom Lane is second in the race overall. Jason Whitehead is third. Of course, Jason Whitehead wants to get through. He's higher up in the standings compared to Tom Lane, so he wants to score more points than Walter de Bruyn will be scoring. But unfortunately for that, that's going to be a very tough ask. He's going to need Walter de Bruyn to have a serious issue here. Technical issue such as myself would be exactly what Jason Whitehead would want for Walter de Bruyn. Of course, first of all, he does that, he needs to find a way past Tom Lane to ensure that he's at least minimising the amount of points that he's losing to Walter de Bruyn. But up front, it is still Dan Kirby who leads by over 40 seconds now to Walter de Bruyn. No chance of the team Rookie Monster 962C car catching Dan Kirby anytime soon. Dan Kirby is coming up to back markers now, as Outl did not too long ago. Outl went past Timon Suvic, Kowalski Motorsports, so Mercedes let him through. Let's see if he'll move across for Dan Kirby. I would assume he would. The blue flags would be waving to signify there is a faster car coming through, especially when it's the leader as well. We don't want to impede the leader at any time. Dan Kirby continues to extend his lead here, and he's attempting to put Outl down a lap as well. So he's managed to put everyone from 10th onwards down a lap. So only the top 9 drivers are still on the lead lap here. I think it might remain that way as well to the end of the race. There is one lap number 52 here. Excuse me, it'll actually be lap number 51 of racing. There's one lap additional for the formation lap. Again, as you said, this is good news though for Dan Kirby. He'll be scoring maximum points here in his championship hunt. Now, it says here on the scoreboard that I have in front of me for the Purist category, it has Dan Kirby's name completely missing. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Dan Kirby is the leader in the Purist category. It's showing me here that Ross Smith is. Ben Borman is second. But I'm quite sure Dan Kirby is the leader here. And actually, no, he's not. It's actually showing that he's 5th overall in 55 points. So I do apologise for that. Dan Kirby's name is here in the Mazda 787B. So it's actually Ross Smith who leads this championship in the Purist category. He's in 5th position at the moment, and he's actually been passed by Jason Whitehead, which is bad news for Tom Lane, because while Ross Smith has had a bit of an issue and a bit of an off, Tom Lane is now under pressure from Jason Whitehead, and that would be 2nd overall in the Pro category here around Magny-Cours. And that is not going to play in the favour of Tom Lane. As I said before, he's one of these drivers that's trying to do a one-stop strategy here, himself and Tom Mountjoy. Now, but ability is again on a flying lap here. How much of an issue has he got, because he's got 2 back markers right in front of him, and it looks like he's caught them in the wrong place at the wrong time again. So I'm not sure if he's going to be able to do purple through sector 2. We'll find out now as he comes across the sector 2 timing line. No, he doesn't, and those two have actually impeded him quite a fair bit as well. The good news is that he's still quite a ways ahead of Dan Kirby, so not too much to worry about there. It's 2 laps to go here for our race leader, Dan Kirby, who is on lap number 54 here of 55, and he's currently working his way now through the final corners, and will come across the line now to start the final lap of the race here. Just 17 corners sit between Dan Kirby and another victory here in the Purist category and overall as well, of course. So he's through to sector 1 here for the final time. He'll work his way through. He's got back markers in front of him, but not too much to worry about. His closest rival is almost a full sector behind him. Actually, he's well over almost 1.5 sectors behind him for the time being, as Jason Whited doing battle on track. Nice of the stream to come back for me here towards the end. If I could have it just for 1 lap, especially the final lap as well, it'd be great to see if there's any changes here for position anywhere on track. As, I can see Jason Whitehead still looking for a way past Tom Lane, but it's not going to happen anytime soon for him, of course, as he's battling with Ross, trying to keep the rest of the field at bay as well. He's got more back markers there. There's Jason Whitehead desperately trying to find a way past Tom Lane to add more points to his championship hunt here. As into the final sector now has come the race leader Dan Kirby, but we're sticking with this battle here. Jason White is going to go try around the long way around Tom Lane, but for Dan Kirby, it's only a few more corners, and again, Jason White is desperately looking for a way around the outside there of Tom Lane, but through the penultimate corners now will come Dan Kirby, and it'll be another well-deserved victory for Dan Kirby as he walks away with maximum points here at Magny-Cours. And he's the first of drivers and quite a long way back as well as Walter de Bruin. This is the battle here, of course, here for 3rd overall between Tom Lane and Jason Whitehead. It's going to go all the way down to the wire, and it seems to be the stream has listened to me and would like to, and is going to show me the entirety of the last lap, which is absolutely fantastic because we get to see this fantastic battle between Jason Whitehead and Tom Lane. As I said, the battle here for 3rd overall, and it's, as you said, it's going to go all the way down to the wire. We're working our way through now into the entrance of sector 3. Tom Lane, what a drive this has been as well. Just one single pit stop and is not allowing that Nissan through at all. 2 wheels on the grass, is that his downfall? Jason Whitehead into the back of him, spins Tom Lane round, and unfortunately for Tom Lane, it will not be the 3rd to the podium. Jason Whitehead, though, slows down by quite a significant margin, and he's doing the right thing here. That's good sportsmanship. Great job there from Jason Whitehead. He knew he did wrong, and he gave the position back to Tom Lane. Hacked it to him straight away. Fantastic job, fantastic fight as well. And Ross Smith just watched all of that happen in front of him as well, as he'll come across the line in 5th. Ludwig Askinis now will come across the line in 9th position, and he will be 5th overall. Ahmed Abdullah here in 4th overall in class. What a drive from him as well. We could have seen multiple very quick laps as well as someone spins just there across the line as well, finishing the race in style. I'm not sure who that was actually who spun across the line. It's 12th overall, I think. No, 9th overall. That was Ludwig Askinis there who came across the line and spun. Gilles Lalonde, unfortunately, in the wall on the very last lap. Not the way he liked to have ended the race, but nonetheless, the race. Well, actually, no. Is this going to be an issue? Where has he stopped on track? Is Gilles? Now it's showing that he's 7th overall in class. That would put him in 13th. And he stopped between the penultimate corners. Now, this is when we saw the contact between 2nd and 3rd. Now, it's not my screen that's paused because the graphics are still working. So this is Gilles Londelay, who is stopped on the side of the road. Now, the good news is that Tom Mountjoy won't take 13th away from him, and I think his position is safe. However, we'll leave that to the stewards to decide there exactly what's going to happen. But that brings an end to a very exciting race for me because I barely saw any of the action on track except for the very last lap there and that fantastic battle to the end there for 3rd overall between Tom Lane and Jason Whitehead. And of course, it all ended the way we'd expected to, disastrous. However, Tom Lane was given the position back by Jason Whiting because he knew he was in the wrong, and to avoid having a quick meeting with the stewards and having to give the penalty, appealing the decision and so on and so forth, he did the right thing and he gave the position back at the line. So that wraps up a very interesting race here that we've had here around Magny-Cours. Now, what we'll try to do here before the end of the stream is we'll try and bring in some of the drivers here, especially the ones that finished in the top 3, and get their thoughts in the race here. I'd love to have a chat with Tom Lane as well to just think and try and position myself in his mind of how he did 55 laps of racing around Magny-Cours on just a single pit stop. It's still, I cannot compute it how he did that. He's the only driver to have done it. Tom Mountjoy, I presume, didn't do it because he's not in the top 10. He's a lot further down the order than I would have expected. And actually, he did only do 1 pit stop. So we had 2 drivers complete the race with just a single pit stop. An incredible race that was there for those 2. Well, it looks like we've got the leader, the winner actually overall in the pro category. That, of course, is Walter de Bruin waiting for us in the waiting area. So we'll bring him in shortly and we'll have a quick chat with him there. He had a great battle with Tom Lane not too long when he came out of the pit lane after his second pit stop, and then trying to work his way close to the back of Dan Kirby, but just couldn't quite get there. It was a hard-fought effort, a very valiant effort as well. It was just not enough time on the clock for him, unfortunately, to catch Dan Kirby, the rapid Dan Kirby as well. So I see both of them are in the waiting room now, so we'll see if we can get a quick chat with Dan Kirby. So we'll just wait for him to be brought in, and there he is. The man of the hour, the man of the race actually, Dan Kirby. Magnificent race from start to finish. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see much of you winning, but it looked rather comfortable there for you. There was only 1 lead change, and you pretty much had everything nailed down to a T.
Yeah, I knew Tom Lane behind me starting likes to do like long stints and runs low boost, so I kind of had like, he basically blocked everybody so I could just do my own thing.
It was interesting, his strategy there at the beginning. It was like he's almost a team game for you. He was blocking the entire field from getting through, and that was kind of the whole story for Tom Lane as well. He was just essentially a rolling roadblock for you. But a great job from your side there, as you said. You didn't put a foot wrong anywhere. You must want to all release it now. All that tension that you were building up through the race.
Yeah, this is definitely not easy, even if it looks like it is. These cars are insane.
No, I could imagine it's quite difficult. Well, thank you so much, Daniel, for talking to us. We hope to see you around next time as well, and maybe another cheeky win as well.
Yeah, thank you.
So let's see if we can bring the man who finished second overall, of course, 1 in the pro category, Walter de Bruin. And also we'd like to get a quick word in with Tom Lane if we can. But Walter de Bruin, a great drive from you there. I know what you're thinking towards the end there. You were trying to see, especially with that second pit stop, you were trying to close in. If you had more time, I think you could have done it. But no less, that was a magnificent drive from you and a great win as well for you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I never had the feeling I could catch Daniel here. In qualifying was very much faster, and in the race, well, I got a couple of taps from behind, so to say. So then I knew I was too far behind. So I just tried to get the best results I get, and well, I was a little bit surprised halfway through I was fighting for the lead in pro. So it was a nice surprise to win this one for my class.
And a very interesting strategy from you as well, because if I'm not mistaken, you had that penalty earlier on the race, so that must have switched up your strategy a lot there. And as you said, you kind of came into it towards the end, and then you had that great battle with Tom, but with Tom being on a very different strategy to everybody else, it looked like it was really going to be a great battle between you two there towards the end, but seemed quite easy for you there.
Yeah, he was on the fuel saving mode. So, I mean, a great job by him by making it on 1 pit stop. I looked at the fuel numbers to make that. I thought that I have just to drive lift and coast so much, so low fuel mapping. I'm not going to do that. So a great job for him to make that, but yeah, that made the overtake a bit easier. Yes, for my strategy, I got 2 times I hit from behind early on, and I found myself in the back of a huge pack of cars, not being able to do my lap time. So I thought, okay, let's go in the earliest lap I can do, and then hopefully get a clean track and try to do the pace I can. So that helped at the end. After all the pit stops, I found myself, I think, second in class. I was a bit surprised I was ahead of Jason, which is very important for me in the championship. I just had to catch Tom, and I knew with the fuel saving he had to do that I should be able to get him. So that was great.
So well-deserved victory there in the pro category, and of course second overall. You're happy with that. Thank you so much, Walter, for joining us. Now we'll see if we can get a quick word in with John Mayer, the winner in the AM category. Love to get a quick word in as well with Tom Lane, if possible, to discuss his strategy there and what was going through his mind there at the very end. But let's bring in John Mayer, the winner in GT AM. Things are looking very interesting in the AM category. Philippe Henrique was the man to beat, essentially, and then sort of towards the end, it just kind of crumbled. And then there was John Mayer. He was in the mix. He was dicing it up with drivers, and out of nowhere, well, a well-deserved victory.
Well, thank you very much. I really enjoyed the race today.
How was it there towards the end? Were you, because you had that 2-stop strategy, a few drivers around you were going for the same, a similar strategy. Some of you were dicing it up, even had that single strategy going on. Was there ever a doubt in your mind that you could make it all the way to the end there with 2?
No, I knew I had the fuel for it because I didn't have to have full tanks. I was running 2 shorter tanks for my fills. So, but yeah,
Thank you so much.
The strategy has always been tough because Eric and the boys with the Porsche, they can quite often do a 1-stop, and it's really hard to make up the 2 minutes basically in the pit break to get by them.
Thank you so much, John, for joining us. And I see that Tom is waiting in the booth as well, the man that I really want to speak to here with the most interesting strategy, and of course, behind the wheel of that Porsche 962C. We'll bring him in momentarily, but a very exciting race here and the VWSC Historics. We look forward to more action coming your way soon. Of course, you can stay up to date with all the things happening with VWSC on social media. Of course, if you're watching live on YouTube, remember to hit the bell icon to stay notified and subscribe as well to be first to be notified. And Tom Lane, the man I've really wanted to speak to the entire race. You did 55 laps on a single pit stop. I saw that you were in maximum fuel saving mode there to the end, and yet somehow you still managed to walk away with 3rd overall. Talk us through Sector 3 on lap 55.
A mess. I'd cooked the rear tyres too much, got a terrible exit out of every corner. Going down into the last braking zone, I thought I'd have to pass the lap car or Jason would get me. But in the end, we all tried to go for the same gap and it just came together.
Was there any doubt in your mind that you'd run out of fuel towards the end there?
It got very close. In the end, I could actually turn the turbo up because I oversaved.
And it was a great job from Jason White. Although he did clatter in the back of you there, he did concede the position back to you, giving you your rightful place of 3rd overall. But Tom, thank you so much for joining us. And I got to say, your strategies in every race that I've been here so far have always been magnificent to watch. I can never guess what you're going to do in any race. And it seems to be you're the master at saving fuel.
Yeah, well, in the Porsche, it's easy. I just turn down the turbo and it works. Just have to take the ace hit.
Well, thank you so much, Tom, for joining us in the broadcast. I think that brings an end here to the VWSC, the Virtual World Sports Car Championship race here, the Historics at Magny-Cours. We'll be back soon enough with more exciting action here in the Virtual World Sports Car Championship. Well, do join us for the next races. We hope to see you soon. But from myself, Christopher Moore, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.